All right, what's up, everyone? It's Wednesday, as you just saw the new Jawing and Balling intro from our guy here at the network, Matt Briggs. Shout out to him, does amazing work. He did that super quick. I texted him about that at like 10 o'clock this morning, and he got that to me at like 6 p.m. It was like,
That's
done.
incredible.
Yeah. So I'm here with Amon. Joe has to go be a dad for 5 minutes. So Joe he may or may not be on tonight. We'll see. But in the meantime, it's Amon and I. Amon, how are you, good sir? You got a haircut.
Yeah, I did get a haircut. It's kind of like the hair removal process here. Joe shaves, and now I get the haircut. So Tony's holding down the fort for all of us right now.
I know the only thing I'm not doing, I'm not growing out this yet because it's not winter. When winter comes, when winter is coming, I'll grow the hair out because right now it's too damn hot for me to be not having the shave sides. But I am still growing the beard out. I trimmed up the beard a little bit, lightened up a little bit. But, other than that, the beard has remained untouched.
There we go. That's what we're looking for.
We're going a month strong. For those of you that don't know, Amon got accepted into UNC, the University of North Carolina, and he starts in the summer, correct?
This fall. The fall.
Fall, okay.
Yeah.
And then for anybody that doesn't know, I applied to 3 of my colleges. I got accepted in all 3. I got accepted into Indiana University, Michigan State University, and today I got accepted into Louisiana State University. So LSU. I could be a Hoosier, a Spartan, or a Tiger, whichever one I pick. I was telling my mom I was really upset that the Tigers, ironically, because we had talked about my dad was a huge Notre Dame fan growing up. And he would be rolling over in his grave and would just jump for joy if I was to ever apply for Notre Dame and potentially get accepted. I'm like, yeah, I don't have those types of grades. Nor am I Catholic. No, that would just be awkward. But I was laughing. I was like, well, it is ironic because the head coach of Notre Dame went down to LSU. But I really I would love to go to LSU and be able to go and see Ed Orgeron because I'd love to be able to be like, Coach O, go Tigers. I just want to hear it one time in person, go Tigers.
I think that'd be great to hear Ed Orgeron say go Tigers. I think that would be great.
Right. And then, of course, Yoel, thank you, sir. Appreciate you watching. Thank you for the congratulations. So let's go ahead and get into the show tonight. So obviously the NFL released their schedule this past week over the few teams, and there's a lot of very interesting games. There's a few international that were kind of like Broncos versus Jags. I mean, I think it'll be interesting because I'm hoping Doug Peterson is able to turn the team around. By the looks of it, he's getting the players. He's getting players that need kind of that second chance. He's rebuilding it. They did really good free agent signings, with the exception of Christian Kirk. That was the one thing Jacksonville's nah, we still got to be Jacksonville. We can't go one off season without being Jacksonville.
We can't turn it around in one off season. We got to budget it out.
Brandon Sheriff, guard from the Washington Commanders, solid pickup. Evan Ingram will give the tight end another chance. Get out of New York, give him a fresh face. All these plays. Christian Kirk, $84 million, number 1 wide receiver. Why?
Let's do it.
Just why? But yeah, what is probably going to be your most favorite game, or even if you got a list of games that you're excited for to see? We'll say 3. If you had to say 3 games, what would be your favorite that you really want to see?
So first is going to be the Pats-Bears game, just because, right, obviously Patriots fans, you can see behind me, but I wanted Justin Fields in the draft. a couple years ago. So I want to see that matchup kind of play out. And I also think I'm just interested to see what Mac Jones is able to do and progress this year. So I'm obviously watching all of his games, but I want to see those two go and square off head to head. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think, getting to see the Bucks Bengals game, Tom Brady versus the guy a lot of people claiming to be kind of the next Tom Brady-ish kind of guy in Joe Burrow. I think that's another thing that's interesting, a possible Super Bowl matchup. If we're really thinking about it, Cincinnati, if they could get all the pieces back on track and the Bucks can get back going, I think that'd be really cool. But there is one kind of game where you see someone coming back to where they used to play, and that's Philly versus Washington. Now, they do play twice, but on Monday night, November 14th, we're going to see the Washington Commanders go to Philadelphia. And, of course, you have Carson Wentz taking on his former team and Jalen Hurts for the first time. And Philly made a whole bunch of moves. Of course, really looks to be a very solid team in the NFC. And then we talk about a Washington team that, is sneakily a playoff contender, sneakily a team that if everything goes right, if Carson Wentz starts to find MVP form, you're talking about this team in a whole new light. I think, when we look at the whole Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz issue, I think that's a fascinating storyline to see who comes out on the better side of that on Monday night. Again, back in Philly, the fans are going to be hectic. It's going to be loud. You're going to see the Nick Foles statue outside. Carson Wentz is going to see it outside. I think it's going to just be a lot of fun, a lot of storylines running through that game. So to me, those are the three games that really stood out from the schedule.
Yeah, and there's actually another one I want to point out because Carson Wentz actually kind of goes on a revenge tour.
Yeah.
He goes to Philly twice.
Revenge.
Revenge. He goes to Philly twice. He actually comes to Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, he comes here. And I could actually be here to watch this game. I could go to this game.
And see your favorite receiver.
Yes, 1-1.
1-1. Michael Pittman.
They come here October 30th at 4:25 at Lucas Oil Stadium. And it'll be interesting. And I want to see what Matt Ryan does outside of Atlanta. Again, I really want to see what the Colts do for him as far as wide receiver help. I know they have 1-1. They also have they drafted the kid out of Cincinnati who I don't think is bad. There's a lot of speculations that they're in talks with Julio Jones. I believe it, but it's one of those I'll wait till whether or not they figure out to sign him. I think for Julio, you're too old. The injuries are now starting to pile up on you. You didn't play a whole lot of games for Tennessee last year. Yes, you have the chemistry with Matt Ryan, which is awesome. But again, it'll be interesting to see who else Indy brings in. I think T.Y. Hilton is technically still out there on the board and available if they really want to go get him. I don't know if they necessarily will, though.
I feel like they're the only team that would give him an offer. You know what I mean? At this point in his career, I feel like they're the only team that would give him the veteran minimum just to come back.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There is another one I was looking at. Man. Sorry, I'm kind of scrolling through the schedules of like different teams. I was not hurt. I got off work, went to the mechanic to see if they could fix my car. Can't fix the car right now, so I'm gonna have to call the dealership about that. And then went to dinner with mom, and then immediately came back here. So I literally just got home. So
Tony's just super excited he got into 3 schools. That's all it is. He's just been celebrating all day.
Literally, that was like the whole highlight of like my entire time is that. Actually, one that I think is really going to be interesting, and I again, it's kind of one of those I want to see how the whole entire team is going to do, and that's the Saints.
Yeah.
The Bengals actually go to the Saints on October 16th, and it's even more interesting because, there's Drew Brees who had quit NBC, so he's no longer a sports analyst for them, and wants to potentially move to either being a full-time coach, like with his kids, like in a local area. There's talks that he might potentially come back to football, which would he come back to the Saints? Maybe.
It's not a bad position to be in if you go back.
It's not, but at the same time, Drew kind of had what Peyton had right there at the very end. Like you could just see his arm was gone.
Yeah, I don't think the Saints would necessarily want to go back to Drew Brees because he wasn't the same. It's just there was this clear physical decline.
And if you remember, Drew wasn't really known either for he wasn't really one to push the ball down the field as far as like a deep throw. Now he'll he'll dice you up. He can dissect you. No issue.
Yep.
But he's not throwing an 80-yard deep bomb on you.
Yeah.
Now, I will say their wide receiver room is interesting because now they have Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, and Jarvis Landry. And then they added Honey Badger as well. So you've added, a couple LSU guys, which obviously they're going to be ecstatic being able to play for the Saints. And back home, there is a little bit of a question with Alvin Kamara. Is he going to be suspended? Is he not? Mark Ingram's there. Can Jameis stay healthy for an entire season? And we did see there was already a significant difference in how he was with Sean Payton's system. Now, how is he going to be with Dennis Allen's system?
Yeah.
Allen does not have a great tenure of being a head coach. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have a great tenure being head coach. But yeah, the Saints are interesting just because, again, there's so many question marks with the Saints. Because you talk about, since Drew Brees, you haven't really found the quarterback. Can Jameis stay healthy? Because he looked solid last year, right? Had 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in 7 games. So it wasn't like he was the turnover machine that we were accustomed to. So if with all the pieces, if Kamara can come back, you still have Marquez Callaway, you have Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, good offensive line, good pieces, good defense. You're going to give the Bucs trouble. It's a team that's going to be interesting to watch this year for sure.
Yeah, and especially because that's about the only time that, for whatever reason, Saints are like the only team that can beat Tampa Bay consistently. Like you want to win a for sure Vegas bet. Go tell Vegas, I'm New Orleans Saints are going to beat the Buccaneers. I don't know by how many, but they're going to beat the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
it's going to happen, no doubt.
It doesn't matter.
And probably the last game that I'm really excited to see because it's a repeat of. Not this last Super Bowl, but Super Bowl before last. Kansas City goes to Tampa Bay on October 2nd. It's a Sunday night football game. That's going to be ecstatic.
Absolutely.
It's going to be, how well can Kansas City bounce back? They don't have Tyreek Hill. They don't have near the weapons that they used to have. And they don't have the defense that they had anymore. To me, their defense got worse.
Absolutely.
So
they did good in the draft to get pieces, but those are just pieces right now. We don't know how they're gonna click.
Exactly. And Damien asked, how confident should Washington be with Wentz as a starter, knowing he is injury prone like Fitzpatrick, especially when they have no O-line to protect me? That's probably about the only one that, if they wouldn't have gotten rid of Sheriff, I would have maybe put it up there a little bit. But to me, Washington still needs a lot of help in the wide receiver room because they got the kid out of Penn State, which not bad.
Dotson, Josh Dotson.
But they needed help already because they only have Terry McLaurin. They have him. Logan Thomas is quarterback converted to tight end, which not bad, but he's just kind of above average. He's not killing it in the stat room. So I mean, even we've seen Wentz play through injuries. I think Wentz is just going to continue to be Wentz. I think that's why a lot of people really weren't like, oh my God, Washington did the move. I think for Washington, they're at a point where they know they have a talented, championship caliber defense that can get them into the playoffs. I don't know how far they'll go with it, but they need an offense to complement it. And right now, with where they were in the draft, with what they're trying to build and the culture they're trying to build in Washington, it doesn't really make sense for them to tank to maybe get the quarterback of the future and still not really have a culture or anything to build off of and build around. So I think that's why I think it'll be probably about the same as it was last year. I think 7-10, 8-9 type season for Washington, maybe a little bit worse, but we'll see. Frankie, you know it, man. Love me. Right up north.
Good thing Joe's not here. You won't have to put a nickel in the jar.
I know. That's the best part. Again, I'm telling you, I told this to Yoel on Bring It the other night. I swear, the more I watch the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, even doing Aaron Rodgers, man, Aaron is Amber Heard just pooping in the bed sheets, just pooping, really abused victim here, they're Johnny, and it's just everything Aaron says, objection, hearsay, objection, hearsay. Everything you say, Aaron, is objection, hearsay. No. But no, I'm excited for this offseason. It'll be interesting. I even said it on there. I don't think the Packers win the North, and I think even if they do, it's going to be 9-8. They're not going to
I think them and Minnesota are a lot closer than people are going to realize too. And then if Justin Fields makes the second-year jump, you throw the Bears in that conversation just because of the defense.
I think the only thing that makes me question with the Bears is their offensive.
I 100% agree. The pieces offensively, 100%.
Mooney is good, but he's not a true number one. They didn't re-sign Robinson.
Nope.
Tell me I'm wrong, Frankie. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me he's not. He's every time. Oh, I'm so abused. Green Bay's a terrible organization. I'm so hurt. Whatever, Aaron. You're whatever. The franchise handed you the keys to the damn house, and you're just like, you guys treat me so bad.
Now that Joe's not here, Cody's gone unhinged. It's just he's going all in tonight.
Oh, literally. I'm waiting for Aaron to step on a bee. God, I hope he steps on a bee. So, right? See, exactly. No, he's immunized. He's immunized.
I'm immunized.
Immunized from the playoffs and from pooping on shoes. So he's good to go. So since we kind of mentioned him, we'll go ahead and talk about it. Do you think the Saints can make the playoffs since they brought in Jarvis, they brought in Honey Badger, they drafted Olave? To me, the Saints had a really good draft. Do you think that they can do anything with it? And do you think now that Dennis Allen has a second chance, he's already said Taysom Hill is not the guy. He's a tight end. He's staying at tight end. Do you think now this gives the Saints a little bit more of an actual identity? And do you think they can go somewhere with it now that Matt Ryan is out of Atlanta? All you got to do is face the Bucs. They could at least get a wild card spot. They're not winning the division, but they can get a wild card spot.
I think that was key for them to make that, kind of Taysom Hill, you're not our quarterback. You kind of just say, Jameis, here are the keys to the car and just go ahead and drive. I think, the saying, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. It's kind of, that's what it was when it was there in New Orleans, because they weren't two Hall of Famers like Joe Montana, Steve Young. These are two mid-level guys. Jameis can be a Pro Bowler at times. The roster's there, though. This roster is completely there. It's going to fall on, is Jameis Winston going to continue to make those leaps and bounds? Because, like we said, the roster's there. You don't have to deal with Matt Ryan anymore. And you look at the NFC as a whole, you're not seeing those like, man, this team is great. Seattle got significantly worse. I don't know what Arizona is going to be without DeAndre Hopkins, and I don't know what Kyler Murray is going to be. They're not going to be there, what that whole situation is going to be. Up north, the Packers got worse. Minnesota, you're still saying that's Kirk Cousins. So the wild card seems to be open. Even if you can't win the division, you always have the upper hand against the Bucs. So that's never been an issue for you. This is a team that can very much make the playoffs. It's just gonna fall upon Jameis Winston. And Jameis, can you go in and kind of continue the year you had last year? We had 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. If that interception total gets to 15, 16, 17, you're in trouble. But if we keep it under 12, we're going to be in the playoffs. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, I agree. And like you said, really the NFC as a whole took a step back. Mm-hmm. They lose Matt Ryan, who, even though Matt Ryan wasn't turning anybody's heads anymore, he was still a consistent quarterback.
Absolutely.
Atlanta, their worst seasons was like 7-9. I think they had 1-4-12 season with him as the starter, and that was just because they were abysmal overall, but they were still competitive. In most of their games. It was just one of those, they did what some of these teams do. They shot themselves in the foot. They can't get out of their own way. And they don't have a run game. They still don't have a damn run game.
They thought Todd Gurley was going to do it for them, but apparently not.
Todd Gurley, who is the guy? Mike Davis?
Davis.
I'm like, he's not the guy. He filled in for Christian McCaffrey.
He's a good number 2. There's no doubt about Mike Davis being a good rotational back, but number 1 premium guy, I don't know.
No. So, yeah, and, obviously Green Bay offensively took a step back. Defensively, I think Green Bay has a chance to be really, really special. Mm-hmm. With those 2 Georgia additions, which was, again, great for me. I thought that was fantastic. But you're not offensively, you're not getting the same production that you got out of a Devontae from a kid out of North Dakota State.
Not right away. There's no way right away you're going to do it.
No, and even though Green Bay has a history, they could develop wide receivers, fantastic through the draft. You haven't done that in years. No, Joe, no nickel in the jar. Shut up. We're talking about Irrelevant, sir. Hearsay. Uh,
You're not present, so we can't.
you're not present. You can't prove anything. Like you said, Minnesota, it's still Kirk Cousins. Can Justin Fields take the next step? Which I think he can. Detroit, for whatever reason, will still be pesky old Detroit, where it's like they may not beat you every 10 seconds, but you're still going to be like, damn it, Detroit's biting us in the kneecaps. We have to deal with them at some point. You still have the Rams, who offensively are still going to be juggernauts that people have to respect and deal with. With Cooper Kupp, with Allen Robinson, with Van Jefferson, and there's another name that they added. They have like 4 top wide receivers.
Well, OBJ, if you want to include him, if you don't want to include him.
Maybe, but OBJ really hasn't committed to that
yet.
He hasn't
committed there. You still got the running game with Sonny Michel and then
Sonny Michel. Didn't Sonny Michel go to the Dolphins?
He might have actually. I think you might be right on that one.
Or the rumor.
Yeah, he did. He did go to the Miami Dolphins. So Cam Akers will be back. But Cam Akers will be back. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still the guy. Now defensively, again, a little bit of a step back. You have Aaron Donald. You went and got Bobby Wagner, and you still have Jalen Ramsey. So you still have potential. You may not have the pass rush that you did, but you still have potential. San Francisco, if they can figure out if Jimmy G is the guy or not, San Francisco is obviously going to be in the competition. Seattle, irrelevant. Arizona for the first half of the season. Second half, a lot to be desired.
And still, what's Kyler Murray going to do? I still don't know what he's going to do. Like, if he's on the field, great. But I don't know if he's going to be on the field this year or not. So,
yeah. So we don't really know about Kyler in Arizona. Obviously, the Seahawks are irrelevant. Panthers, is Sam Darnold the guy? Is, Matt Corral the guy? Is
PJ Walker.
PJ Walker the guy?
They're going to bring back Cam.
Is Cam going to come back? Is he going to Superman it? Is McCaffrey even going to be there? Are they going to trade him away? And then obviously Atlanta, is it Marcus Mariota? Is it Desmond Ridder? Honestly, I think I'd start Desmond over Marcus, but that's because why not?
Because why not?
Why not? Why not?
You don't need to know why. Just why not? Why not do it? Yeah. That's the other thing.
Yes, Marcus has experience. Yes, he's been in the league. Yes, he's led Tennessee to 9-7. Awesome. But do you really just want to be 9 do you really just want to be like 9-8, 10-7?
Right. I think Ridder will play eventually because I think Mariota will get hurt. I would start Mariota, just give Ridder some time to learn because they're very similar, but I think he'll end up playing in the year eventually.
Oh, I think so. And then obviously the whole NFC East, somebody will get in. I honestly, to me, even being a Dallas fan, I honestly think it's going to be Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia took the bigger steps, the bigger moves in the draft. They got A.J. Brown. They stole Nakobe Dean in the 3rd round. And who do they also draft in the first round?
Jordan Davis.
Yeah, Jordan Davis. So it's like Philly is like hold my
Those are 3 first-round talents in A.J. Brown, Nakobe Dean, and Jordan Davis.
And literally they spent a first-round pick on Davis. They traded a first round for Brown, and they got Nakobe Dean in the 3rd. Yeah. So it's like, they committed armed robbery in front of everybody. We did nothing to stop them. And, you look at the rest of the NFC East, Dallas took a step back. They got rid of Amari Cooper. Yes, they still have CeeDee Lamb. Yes, they still have Gallup, but they have Gallup coming back off of an injury. Zeke is supposedly running 22 miles an hour in springtime. I'm like, no, I don't. I'll believe it when I see it. It's like Jerry Jones propaganda. He's like, no, 20. No, he's not, Jerry. No, he's not.
You lose Randy Gregory as well, so defensively you might take a step back in the pass rushing department.
Exactly. They didn't go after anybody in free agency. They went after people that was already there.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
They messed that guy up. They got the biggest steal in the draft, though, right? The biggest steal in the draft in the first round. Got an offensive lineman who commits the most penalties out of the draft class for the team that commits the most penalties in the entire league.
And if I wanted that, just keep Connor Williams. Just keep Connor Williams. Keep a dude that's been in the system for the last 5 damn years. Like, oh, we're gonna. Jerry. Like, and it was funny. He even talked about how I would never like if I was to sell the Cowboys, I would sell them for $10 billion. You could get so much more money than $10 billion for the brand that is the Dallas Cowboys. Not even just saying that like biasly as a
No,
Cowboys
that
fan.
it's true. It's true.
They are a worldwide brand name that right now, what did they say? They're worth over like like $5 billion or something like that as a
And
franchise.
if you in 20 years they haven't won anything, and still they're that kind of. So the brand name is going to be the brand name of the Dallas Cowboys.
Like you look at it, look at how many networks fight to have the Dallas Cowboys on prime time. Look at when they're like absolute garbage. Who does NBC always want on TV? Dallas Cowboys. Who does Fox want in their like primetime game spots? If there's really no other good primetime games, the Cowboys. Same with CBS. Like they're a worldwide brand name, and obviously Jerry's like, well, we'll never sell them. And as probably 90% of Dallas fans, we cry every night knowing Jerry will never sell the damn team. We're just going through retirement home.
Well, the only person that could afford it would be Elon Musk. You know what I mean? So at this point, the way it's going.
I saw a fake tweet that Elon said he was going to buy Dallas and make them better, and I'm like, please do it. Like, just buy them. Just do it, Elon. Just do it. Why not?
Buy them and then buy the whole NFC East and just have the Cowboys win the whole NFC East. That's all it is.
Right? I wouldn't be upset. Would not be upset at all. I really wouldn't. I would not be upset about that.
And the crazy part is he could do it. He could probably buy like half the league and just be fine with it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's the craziest thing.
Well, and I was watching Colin Cowherd earlier, and he brought up a really good point. He was like, he goes, what is the best thing that people like to invest in now, because the stock market and everything and every market is so unpredictable? Invest and buy sports teams. Like, the Dallas Cowboys are still going to be the Dallas Cowboys 20 years from now.
There's no question.
Pittsburgh is still going to be Pittsburgh 20 years from now. Like,
the Lakers are still going to be the Lakers. You know, even if the Knicks suck, the Knicks will still be the Knicks. Like, it's
exactly like you can build these brands. You'll always sell merchandise. You'll always sell tickets. You'll do all of that. You know, if you do housing, like right now, it's a seller's market. I can't buy a house because literally every time I go to look for a house, it's like, all right, you got 2 days. Offer us like
cash.
Offer us $50K more than what we're asking in cash. House is yours. I'm like, what?
and you don't got time to blink. You have to do it. You know, it's crazy.
Like I called earlier on a house, and it was like, hey, leave me a voicemail if you're seriously here. I called them, nothing. I got nothing back. Still haven't heard anything. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could why not? Why didn't he buy the Broncos? Buy the Broncos. Perfect time. You have Russell Wilson at the quarterback. They have a stacked, talented roster. Now they're in the AFC West,
but they're still the Broncos. You're still going to sell over there in the Midwest. Like, in terms of the business side of things, you're not going to. I don't think you're going to go under with any sports team, because you have so many fans, especially in the NFL. If it's an up and coming franchise, that's something else. But in the NFL, you could buy the stinking Jets or the Jaguars. You still will be fine. There's no doubt about it.
I think the only one people might be skeptical with is if you ever buy Washington.
So the Washington fans need someone else to buy Washington. They are done.
There's a lot of baggage. There's a lot of bad. There's a lot of bad. Years of mediocrity, under mediocrity, whole name thing. You get all the sexual allegations. You get
that's more the issue. Less so the mediocrity. It's the
racism from John.
It's just everything keeps compounding upon itself. It's like, all right, are we gonna stop? We done? Period? No, we're still going. It's just a comma. Damn,
still rolling. Still rolling. And then, of course, obviously the big news that took today. Speaking of the NFC least, the Eagles apparently have decided they're also going to go all in, even in free agency, and they signed James Bradberry, which is kind of hit and miss. Like, he wasn't bad with Carolina. He wasn't bad with New York, I think, for what New York needed, considering all the other quarterbacks that they had. Let's see, they had They had Collins at safety, didn't work out. He went to Washington. They had Eli Apple. We see how great Eli Apple is. It's apparently great enough. Cincinnati said we want to bring you back. And then they had Janoris Jenkins. They got rid of him. So, to you, since you're not an NFC East fan of mine, and I'm going to be a little bit biased, do you think the Eagles have done enough to prove that they can not only win the NFC East, but now they can go farther in the playoffs than what they did last season? Because I thought they did really well. They were able to be competitive in a lot of the games and a lot of the teams that they faced, and they were able to enter the playoffs at 10-7. And they just unfortunately had to go to Tampa Bay and face the Bucks, which I mean, it's the Bucks. Like that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Eagles, you look at the roster, you look at everything they did this offseason, the draft. We talked about it. You add AJ Brown, you add Nakobe Dean, you add Jordan Davis, you bring back Derek Barnett, you draft Cam Jurgens if Jason Kelce wants to go. You have your replacement center, James Bradbury. They have Dory Jackson on the roster. They bring in Hassan Reddick from Carolina. They bring back Fletcher Cox. So the pieces are all there. There's no doubt about it that this roster can get them to the playoffs. I don't have a question about it, especially in the NFC East where I don't know what Dallas is going to be. Sorry, Tony. I don't know what Washington is going to be, and I don't think anything of New York. I like Brian Dable. Don't like Daniel Jones. Don't like that roster. I take out New York from my mind. So I think it's a three-horse race there, and Philly looks to be the best bet out of all of them, but it hinges on Jalen Hurts, right? I watched that Bucs game, and he was missing some pretty bad. It was just some bad throws in that game. Can he continue to make those, developments forward? He shows at times he can be really outstanding, but at times he can really be poor. So It's year 2 in the Nick Sirianni offense. Can he get himself comfortable, and can he be the guy? If he can be the guy, this team is going into the playoffs, and they can create some issues for the team. If you're Green Bay and you got to guard these weapons and guard Jalen Hurts, that's something that you can think about. Even Tampa, there's a lot. Like, they can create noise. Once you're in, you never know. It's just one game. But to me, it's all going to rest on the shoulders of Jalen Hurts and his progression forward here in year 2 with Nick Sirianni.
Yeah. And to me, honestly, I think the only thing that really makes it to where, kind of like you said, can Jalen Hurts take that next step? Because now he's got Devontae Smith. You have A.J. Brown. So those are your 2 top targets. You have Dallas Goedert still at tight end, another great target. The running game. Miles Sanders is not the guy.
You got Miles in Boston. You would like to get a third head in there.
If it was me, I'd want a true number 1 or a more solid number 2. Like, if they got Mike Davis with Miles Sanders and Boston Scott, that's a trio I wouldn't want to deal with. You can kind of use Mike Davis as your bell cow, or even Miles Sanders as your bell cow, kind of more of your speedster, like, first and long, second and long, use him. Mike Davis on your short and goal, go to go. And Boston Scott is basically a rotate in. Like, hey, we're going to run the ball, see what you can do. Like that. That's really the only thing to me. Because, defensively, they went from – and this is one thing. As much as I don't like Howie went from, it was like he's got a super old and aging roster to, hold on, let me make some trades, let me sign some people in free agency, and poof, we're back in it. Like, the offensive line got younger, the offensive line got a little bit better. Same with the defense. The defensive line got younger, the defensive line has gotten better. The linebacking core is better, the secondary is better, all of that's better. Secondary is a little older, but you also have experience because you have Darius Slay.
No, they don't have. Do they have? Yeah, they do have Darius Slay. Sorry.
They still have Darius Slay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the Eagles can very much still be in contention. I think, honestly, the Eagles are the only team in the East that I would, even as a Dallas fan, I'm even significantly worried about. The second one would probably be New York, just because if I'm telling you, if they got rid of Daniel Jones, I'd be worried about this Giants team. and I wholeheartely mean that, because they got
I agree. I just don't think they will.
I don't think they will. Not with Daniel Jones, the quarterback. Like, even a few other Giants fans I've talked to, they're like, we're not doing anything as long as Daniel Jones is the guy. And I'm like, hey, he's your franchise quarterback if I'm Cowboys.
Tony's ready to give him the 10-year, $500 million deal right now.
$1 billion. You put respect
$1 billion.
on
my bad. And fully guaranteed, right? Fully guaranteed.
fully guaranteed, no questions asked. Can't trade him, can't cut him. $1 billion penalty, even if he's 9 years left on that 10-year deal. You cut him 9 years in, $1 billion penalty. You will forever be in the negative in your cap hold. But yeah, let's move on to some college though, because there are some kind of interesting college news that that I'm kind of interesting to see, mainly because it's some interesting college games that we'll get to experience. So these are some of the notable non-conference games that are going to be going on. So we've got Alabama at Texas. You've got Notre Dame at Ohio State, Georgia versus Oregon, Iowa State versus Iowa, which that one pretty much happens like every year.
Every year, yeah.
You've got Utah versus Florida. You've got Oklahoma versus Nebraska. Now that'll be fun because that's basically a repeat of Big 12 before Nebraska decided to join the Big 10. You've got West Virginia at Pitt and then Penn State at Auburn. I'm going to pick two games that I really want to see because I feel like they're going to be the most interesting.
All right.
I think Utah versus Florida.
Okay.
And I say that because Florida is like the one team for whatever reason, no matter how good Alabama is and no matter how bad Florida is, Florida always gives Alabama a run for their money for whatever reason. Like, there's the Iron Bowl, but and Auburn is competitive. Like, they were super competitive last year, even with like a second and a half string quarterback that was broken. But Utah, I think we talked about this. Utah is almost like always just right there. And they just can't get it. And we got Coach watching us. Coach, I appreciate it. I agree. That was going to be my second one. Texas versus Bama. It's going to be on Fox. It's an early game. You've got Nick Saban going up against Steve Sarkisian. You've got Bryce Young versus Quincy Ewers. And a couple other five-star prospects against each other. And apparently, Texas is 7-1 against Alabama all time.
Yeah. That was one of your Jeopardy questions.
It was. It was one of the two teams. It was them and
Oklahoma.
Yeah, both. And I think there was Oklahoma State is also undefeated or has a winning record against them. And I think, was it TCU?
I think it's TCU,
yeah. TCU also has a winning record against Bama.
And I think A&M probably does as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, A&M's in the SEC now. They probably get the snot kicked out.
Oh, yeah. Now they don't. Yeah.
But, Amon, what about you, man? If it was me, all honesty, the other one I think I like seeing just because it's one of those interstate rivalries. I always like watching the Iowa State versus Iowa. That's always a great game. I've watched pretty much most of those here of lately, and those are almost always solid.
Yeah.
What about you, sir? Any games that you're just like really just pop out at you?
I mean, Alabama, Texas, I think it pops out at everybody. You talk about Quinn Ewers, you talk about Bryce Young. Texas wants to go into the SEC, and this is basically your test. Okay, how far are we from being an SEC caliber school? Because if you want to win, this is the team you got to get through. So that one jumps out. I think Oregon and Georgia is just intriguing to me because, of course, UGA, the national chance, and then Oregon picks up Bo Nix from Auburn. So, I think that might be something where that could possibly upset alert because I don't think that anyone would really pick Oregon. But, Bo Nix has had some success against Georgia in the past. So if they can get a rolling there, that would be something interesting for me. But I think we're going to have some really good games this year. I think, it's kind of wide open. There isn't a team that of course, you're going to have the Bamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States of the world. But there's some, can Texas make some move? Oklahoma, whether they're going to be, because that's also Oklahoma, Nebraska. You have no idea what you're going to see out of Oklahoma, and you have no idea what you're seeing out of Nebraska. You just really don't know what that matchup is going to entail because it's two new programs. The Penn State-Auburn game we saw last year was really electric when Auburn went up to Penn State. So for Penn State to come back down to Auburn, I think that's also going to be really fun because that game was really competitive, really close for the majority of it last year. And then if they could get something like that similar this year, I think we'd have another electric ball game.
Now, do you think that college football should do this a little bit more as far as, have the teams face like their division rivals because that's kind of what matters the most. But do you think they should start integrating more of these non-conference games. Because to me, I feel like this is like more entertaining. Like Texas versus Alabama, like two of the biggest college football names that you can think of, and you're like, what better way to really kind of kick off the
Yeah.
football season? Because I mean, think about it. That's so West Virginia, Pitt's first, and then Utah versus Georgia, Oregon and not Utah versus Florida, Oregon versus Georgia, and Notre Dame and Ohio State is all the September 3rd. By the second week in really third week probably in September, you've got Alabama at Texas, and then you've got Iowa State at Iowa. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
Just those 3 weeks. Do you think, like, to me, I think college should do this so much more often. Like, because again, I'm one of those, like, there are people that want to expand the college football playoffs, and there's people that don't. And I get it, because you only want really the best of the best. Otherwise, you're kind of nitpicking. And then, kind of like with college basketball, I've heard people, well, why have the regular season at all? Just have everybody start at zero, and then everybody just compete. Whoever wins, wins. But it's like, how do you expect the Big Ten to be able to compete with the SEC unless they face each other more often? How do you expect the Pac-12 to be a little bit more relevant? How do you expect the Big 12 to be a little bit more relevant if they're not facing these out of conference teams more often? Like, look at Oregon versus Ohio State last year. That was a
Unreal
great game. It was a fantastic game. And it's like, I get it. You want the teams to face more of their inner conferences, but it's like, I feel like you're losing out on ratings, on viewers, on like potential rivalry. Like, you're losing out on so much when you do that. Do you think they should start implementing more of these, or even expand the season out? Make the season like a couple weeks longer, so that way you can have a few more games like these.
I think they got to find a way to do it, because it's just more entertaining, because instead of waiting and hoping that Ohio State and Alabama face off in the championship game because they're seated at 1-3 or 1-2. Now, okay, week 5, we got Ohio State and Alabama, or, you got Texas and Alabama. You get Penn State and Auburn. That was such an exciting matchup, because those two teams, they have no idea what each other are. Like, a lot of the times, both teams know each other so well. They know the system. They've scouted the same people. They know everybody, and it's kind of intertwined, which is great, which is fun. It makes for competitive football. But also, you have these games like you mentioned, Ohio State, Oregon. Neither team really knew what the other team was going to do. They didn't know what the formations meant, and you saw them how to figure it out on the fly. And we really got to understand, okay, this is how good Oregon is. This is how good Ohio State is. And if you want to keep the 4-team system, 4-team playoff, you need more non-conference games, because then you get to compare, and you don't have to be like, oh, well, does the strength of schedule matter? Does this matter? Does the playing record matter? Now it's, okay, well, Ohio State beat Alabama, so they're the better team, so they need to get the one, or, vice versa. However it is, if you're going to keep it at 4, non-conference games need to be a must. But even if you expand, I would love to see more and more non-conference games, especially for those big schools that, you want to end up seeing in the championship game. You don't get to see them there. At least you get to see them in the regular season at some point.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Like you said, if the only time you'll get to see Alabama versus Ohio State is in the championship. Like, think about it. What was it? 2 seasons ago when Alabama won it, it was basically Ohio State was competitive until like the second half, and then Alabama hold my beer, let me kick the crap out of you, and then it wasn't a game anymore. Like, it wasn't like, I would rather see that in the season and then have a more competitive game. Like, look at this last championship game. It was 2 SEC teams that face each other all the time, and what was it? A fantastic game.
You can also talk about it how, like, Ohio State Clemson kind of had that same feel, right? The first year it was close. Second year, Ohio State came out with all the adjustments. Now you get those games more often. They can continuously do that, and these games just get closer and closer.
Yeah, I agree. Then another thing that kind of happened. Oh yeah, these are some of the big comparisons for Bama and Texas. So Bryce Young, obviously 5-star recruit. Quinn Ewers, Jamar Gibbs, same with Bijan Robinson, and then Jermaine Burton and Xavier Worthy. Some of the key matchups to look forward to as far as offensively for both teams. And then Here we go. So this is one that came out. So apparently the Pac-12 has come out that it's no longer going to be whoever wins their respective division. So like the East versus West, whatever. It's whoever has the best winning percentage. And this is what some of these previous matchups would have looked like if they would have gone off of that. For the most part, there's a few of them they just kind of mirror each other.
Yeah.
But there is a few that it's like, wow, it's like look at Washington State better than Utah. So, do you think this is something that more of the conferences should implement? Like, that way you don't have like Ohio State versus like Northwestern, or
Right.
like it wasn't Michigan versus Iowa. Like you could have had Michigan versus Ohio State round 2. Like,
Yeah. I think it's an intriguing concept, and I want to see how the Pac-12 ends up playing out because you talk about Bama Georgia could always be the title game, and it couldn't be Bama and Auburn because they play on the same side of things, and it keeps more teams interested longer because if you're a team like A&M, right, and you're on the same side as Bama, you're like, okay, well, we're not playing the title game. Now it's okay. We might not win our side of things, but if we can just keep ourselves up there, just lose the one game to Bama, okay, now we can get in the title game. So I do think it's very intriguing to have that kind of concept. It also makes it, again, those rivalries can come back. You can have an Iron Bowl SEC championship game. You can have the Ohio State, Michigan. You can have those types like Michigan State. You can have those types of games in the conference finals. So I think that's a very interesting concept. I'm interested to see how it ends up playing in the Pac-12 because to think that Washington State was better than Utah, I'm not sure they were that year. So I just want to see how that kind of plays out.
yeah, and it will. I think it would make it more interesting because again, like you said, if it's A&M and Alabama, it's like okay, well, A&M's pretty much out. Like the only way they're even getting into the playoffs is if they just happen to be the 4 seed.
Yeah.
They only have one loss, and everybody else has to have at least one. Like they can't slip up. And yeah, like you said, you could have an Iron Bowl for the championship game. For the SEC championship, or even like what we saw this year, the SEC championship is usually a preview of what your national championship is going to look like. We're real damn close to it, and come to find out, that was exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It was like Georgia's like, okay, we'll make the adjustments. Now we figured out what we need to do. We don't really need to beat you in the regular season. Doesn't matter. We just need to beat you when it matters.
Right.
Now, again, to me, and again, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. Maybe Georgia did it because they're like, oh well, if we don't beat Bama to win the chip, then nobody's going to consider us legitimate because you didn't face Bama. But it's like I would have just eliminated them beforehand and been like, yeah,
we beat them then.
We beat them to even for them to get into the playoffs. Like we stopped them from getting in. Like because Alabama treated that like a playoff game. Alabama wasn't going to take no break.
The whole world treated it like a playoff game. There's not one person who sat there and said, this ain't a playoff game. It don't matter. Everybody in the world who's watching that game said, yeah, this is the playoff game.
Exactly. So it's like, I would love to see this implemented a little bit more, especially in the Big Ten too. Because like I said, could have had Michigan versus Ohio State part 2. You could have Michigan versus Michigan State versus Ohio State. You could have so many different matchups for these that I feel like would just be so beneficial for ratings, for team programs overall. All of it would be so much more beneficial. But what do we know? We're just a couple of quote unquote sportscasters, and what do you guys know about business?
Yeah, we don't have a degree from anywhere, so we're not.
Hey, we're working on that. Okay,
we're working on it. We're working on it.
4 years. Okay. For me, 3 because I already have 25% of my degree done. So for me,
I got 2 years left, so we're good. We got this done.
Exactly. So we'll figure it out. We'll be like, look, y'all are stupid. You're doing this all wrong. Y'all know what you're doing.
Yeah, Tony and I are running for president, vice president of the college football world. Come 2025. Yeah, we'll say 2025.
Not 2024. That's the presidential election.
No.
2025. We'll do after.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it'll be interesting. Like I said, I know everybody probably says it like every year. Like college football, I feel like is going to be so much interesting because of all the moves that happen. Brian Kelly going to LSU. Is he actually a good coach? Can he
Yeah.
turn LSU around? Lincoln Riley leaves Oklahoma. How is
That to me is the
Oklahoma gonna
biggest one, the Lincoln Riley move, because I don't think he wants any part of the SEC. Now he goes to USC, brings Caleb Williams with him, bunch of Oklahoma recruits. Is that program just all of a sudden becomes the best team out there, or are they still going to be the same USC that we're kind of used to?
And really, if you think about it too, this is really the year. This is going to be the year as far as recruiting Archie Manning. Like,
Yeah,
he's pretty much recruit. He's pretty much down to all SEC teams because we'll go ahead and include Texas in the SEC. He's going to the SEC. Like he's following his uncles. He's going there. It's not Old Miss. Georgia's in the mix. I think LSU was for a minute there, and then they're
Bama's
out.
still in the mix.
Alabama, Texas, and Georgia, I think, are the top three still.
Clemson was out, right? He booted out to Clemson, I think,
Yeah, I
a
think
weeks
he
a while
booted
ago.
Georgia now. So it's like you never know. He could go anywhere, and it's like really, I feel like you're going to see it from those teams of like, okay, we're going to try to get the Manning, we're going to try to get the number one quarterback prospect for the future. We're going to try to get our Trevor Lawrence. We're going to play our absolute damn hardest to get this person.
And you have to. You see it for the past couple of years. That's been the trend, right? Even Bryce Young, this past year, Bama got him. Boom, they're in the championship game. They didn't win it. Justin Fields went to Ohio State. Boom, championship game. So it seems to be if you can get one of these high-profile guys, you've got a really good shot of getting to the championship game.
Yeah, and then of course, look at all these revenge games that are going to happen. Michigan State beat Michigan. That's going to be a big revenge game. Obviously Michigan goes to Ohio State this year.
In Columbus.
Imagine how
after all the noise that Michigan talked, now you got to go and see CJ Stroud in his second year there.
In the horseshoe.
In the horseshoe.
Like, oof,
I know Joe's ready for that game.
Oh, I'm ready for that game. Like, I am so damn excited. I made sure, like I got Fubo TV because I don't have Spectrum anymore. And I was like, I bought all the sports packages. I was like, I am not missing this game.
No, not that game. Georgia, Bama, again, that's going to be a matchup you're going to look for.
Georgia, Bama, obviously Texas, Oklahoma. Because, again, how is it going to be? Is it going to be, the typical Red River Showdown? Is it going to be sad? Is it not going to be sad? How is Texas going to do now against Alabama in the SEC? Because, again, like you said, they're joining it. How are y'all going to do with it? Which I feel like that's what Oklahoma should have done. I feel like Oklahoma should be facing an SEC team instead of Nebraska.
You think, right? That just make the most sense. But maybe it's because you're saying, okay, first year with the new coach, new quarterback, new this, maybe figure it out 1 year and then try again the next. I don't know. But I'm honestly really intrigued with what Oklahoma is going to be because I have no idea because we've never seen anyone come out of Clemson. No one's left that kind of family over there. So first got to come out, the defensive coordinator, new quarterback, new weapons, new this, new that. And it's just going to be a whole new feel over there. I don't know if they can keep it up what they've done the past couple of years.
And, like I kind of said with Lincoln Riley, they're out of the Bob Stoops shadow. Like none of Bob Stoops' recruits are still going to be there. They're all gone. This is an entirely new Oklahoma program that this dude is inheriting. Now he's inheriting Lincoln Riley's recruits, which good, potentially good and bad. But yeah, it'll be, and then obviously the NFL is going to be interesting. We'll hopefully figure out soon what's Deshaun Watson going to be. Is it going to be 6 games? Is it going to be 8 games? There's a lot of people saying start at 8, and then we'll kind of figure out from there. Is he going to be on for half the season or not? Some teams regress. Some teams are going all in. Philadelphia's going all in. Cleveland is like, we'll go all in. Does Baker go somewhere before?
Would you keep Baker if you're Cleveland, knowing that Deshaun Watson probably gets suspended for maybe half the year? Do you keep him or do you roll with Jacoby Brissett in the time that he's away?
If I'm Cleveland, this is what I do. I would try to make amends with Baker. Mm-hmm. And this is how I would present it. I don't know how well it would go. If I'm Cleveland, I say, Baker, look, we don't think you're the guy. We don't. You've had 3 coaches in the 4 years that you've been in. Yes, you finally took us to the playoffs. Last year you played hurt. We appreciate that, but we don't think that even though we've given you all the tools, we've given you enough, you haven't maximized success for us. So, depending on how long Deshaun's gone, if I'm them, I would say, look, we're going to give you the keys to the organization for one more year. You're going to be our starting quarterback while we get Deshaun figured out. Rebuild yourself, show us and show other teams that you're worth it. Like, because right now we're not going to trade you because we still need you, and give yourself a chance to basically fix your image. Like, hey, if you go out and win us, if you go out and get us in the playoffs again, cool. Maybe we should rethink about keeping you, but we paid too much for Deshaun. So, hell, we could trade you to a better organization. And if I was Cleveland, if I was to give Baker that incentive, be like, hey, Baker, if Deshaun's suspended for the whole season, if you can get us to 9 or 10 wins and back into the playoffs as a wild card, you tell us where you want to go, we'll trade you there. That's your incentive.
Yeah.
If we end up below 500 by the time Deshaun either takes over or if he's out for the whole year, if you get us below 500, we're trading you to whoever we can get you to, or you're just getting cut and you go wherever you want. Like, if I'm Cleveland, that's how I would do it. Do you think they should do that? Do you think they might do something similar? Or again, I could see them again. They may feel out how the whole Deshaun thing is, and then again, depending on how long, they may say, okay, we're going to keep you till the trade deadline, and then if somebody's quarterback got hurt and they think they're a quarterback away, we'll trade you there. Boom, you have a fresh start.
Yeah, I think the thing is going to come down to is it's just Baker Mayfield's mentality and his attitude towards the situation, right? Because I think the only reason you would want to trade him is he's just going to be toxic in that locker room because you know Deshaun's going to miss time, and I think he is at least a little bit better, at least a little bit more familiar than Jacoby Brissett at this stage, and he has an incentive and a chip on his shoulder. This is your audition for any team because right now there's not one team in the NFL with this bad quarterback class that came out that said the Steelers didn't want to make the trade for you. And they drafted Kenny Pickett, who I don't think is better than Baker Mayfield. Maybe, attitude-wise might be, but I don't know if he's necessarily better than Baker Mayfield. So they were willing to go shop in the draft versus you right now in a bad draft class. So you have the opportunity now, if you're Baker Mayfield, to say, look, I can go half a season. If I can put on a bunch of numbers, get my team some wins. Now, if I'm Cleveland, I'm happy because now I can get maybe a third, second, first round pick, maybe for Baker Mayfield. And if I'm Baker, I say, okay, I can get myself to where I want to go. The only issue is how is Baker Mayfield going to take that news, take the sense of saying, look, Baker, you're not the guy. We're going to trade you, but we need you for this. If he's saying, nah, screw you guys, well then, all right, Baker, you're staying at home. We'll keep you on because someone's going to get hurt. Carson Wentz probably gets hurt. We'll trade you there. Don't worry. But we'll go and ride with Jacoby Brissett. I think it all hinges on the attitude of Baker Mayfield. Because if he's up for it, yeah, you keep him. But if he's going to be that kind of guy that's going to shake up a locker room that really doesn't know what's going on right now, I'll roll with Jacoby Brissett. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I think the only reason that I wouldn't be a big fan of Jacoby is just because he hasn't lived up to expectations.
No,
Like, he's been the franchise starter before, and he didn't do anything. He wasn't the dude in Indianapolis when they had better wide receivers. He wasn't really the dude in Miami when he was filling in for Tua. It's like, Jacoby, you're a backup, man. You're just
He is absolutely a backup. And that's why, to me, Jacoby would be easier to convince of that role, right? But
yeah.
to me, it's just the attitude thing with Baker. If he's willing to do it, absolutely plug it. But if he's going to be about it, I'm okay. I'll live and I'll go under 500 with Deshaun out, but I'll build my locker room.
Yeah, again, that's why if I'm Cleveland, I would be pitching it to Baker like, look, we didn't do this the right way. That's our bad. We needed to be adults when we told you that you're not the guy, and we needed to tell you face to face. But yeah, that to me is how I would do it. Is just be like, look, you do what you can. We'll give you some incentives depending on how you get us, because again, we're going to be a business, and and plus, how much better would it be if he does and say for whatever reason Baker's like, well, I'm trying to think of a team that really needs a quarterback that's actually like in a halfway decent situation. We'll take Indianapolis. We'll say Indianapolis.
Yeah,
first.
Indy.
Indy wants is like, no, Matt Ryan, not the dude. We need a young dude. We need to stop taking old dudes for like 1-year contracts and moving on from them. Like, be like, look, how much better do you think Indianapolis would be convinced if, you have a team that is like, well, we're going to move off of him, but we honestly think he's a great guy. Like if we didn't trade all this money for this guy, which you guys would have done too,
Yep.
he would still be our guy. Like, I feel like, again, if he could be willing to be like, you know what, Cleveland, you're right. I'll accept that. I'll make it work. I feel like he'd be in a lot better situation.
Absolutely. Again, it all hinges on Baker Mayfield, and the Browns are hoping that he comes in with the right attitude because this is the only way that they're going to get any value for trading Baker Mayfield.
Exactly. So, well, man, I feel like that's all the time we got because I'm going to get out of my little monkey suit, dress shirt and dress pants, and go take me a shower. But we will be on next week. Hopefully, Joe will be able to join us this time. I shouldn't be busy next week.
Man, if we miss Tony, we got 3 weeks of the skeleton crew going on. Someone's just missing.
Right, somebody is gone. But thank you all for watching. Please like, share, subscribe to the show. ASAP always has great content. We have great content, but we're a little bit biased when we say that. But you can always catch us every Wednesdays. Typically, we do 8 p.m. We did 9 p.m. because, again, I'm out partying because we all got accepted into college. We're good to go. We're smart, SMRT. We're so smart. And, again, we're up and coming. We're growing. We have a new intro, which I really like the intro.
Yeah.
And, when I talked to the dude, I said, I'm a Cowboys fan. I have 2 Patriots fans on there, so you can include highlights from there. He's like, do you talk about basketball? And I was like, we sure do. He's like, who's your NBA teams? I was like, well, Joe and I are Pacers fans. I'm 99% sure Amon is a Celtics fan. I was like, throw both of those in there. And he's like, you got it. So,
tough night last night, but it's okay. We're rebounding. That was without Marcus Smart, now Horford. We're fine.
Hey, as long as y'all win at least 3 games, y'all got a 7-game series. But we'll see. I'm also excited because we're for sure going to have new NBA champions this year.
Yep.
Bucks are gone. The Suns aren't even going to be in the title game, so everything's going to be brand new. And we'll see if the Celtics can get title number 18, right?
Yep. Title number 18 by ourselves. Sorry, Freddie, you're no longer part of it.
Then they'll be the number 1 franchise with the most with the most championship wins.
Thought they could catch up to us. Come on now.
Oof. Oof. All right, man. Well, everybody have a good night. We appreciate y'all tuning in, and we will see y'all next week.